So how do we get... So there's a really nice Beaton to Burnand royal portraiture. How do we get Cambridge, Jones and Beaton into one sentence?
We don't. We just sort of...
We just have to put it in the blender and press mix.
And it's all... This week, we are carrying on our conversation about Beaton because there was so much to say.
There's the war years.
Yes, good.
There's the Hollywood years.
Yes.
And there is My Fair Lady.
There's His Fair Lady. Good. One more quote from Lord Snowdon. Lord Snowdon said, "He was much more than just a photographer. He was a great journalist, a wit, a commentator, a diarist, a 20th century Pepys using a pen, a brush and a camera."
I've got a quote for you as well.
Come on then.
Which again, I think is quite good to have at the head of our part two. And this is Cecil Beaton. "As I have always walked alone, any success I have achieved has come entirely from my own machinations or as a result of my own endeavours. I started out with very little talent, but a lot of strong ambition."
Okay.
Wow. Wow. Shall we go chronologically or should we go backwards? Because
should we start with the pictures we've got from...
Yeah, I mean, I love the picture we've got on the screen at the moment, which we'd like you to see, but we're going to describe it. It is a photograph of Audrey Hepburn taken by Cecil Beaton, as I understand it, in a dress for My Fair Lady, which he designed.
And you know how you ended last episode with the conversation about how you kind of...
Composition.
Yeah. Everything should be perfect in this.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
But you've got a problem.
Doesn't quite work for me.
Is it for one particular reason?
Two.
Okay. Go on then. Slash Cecil.
I can't articulate, but I love... So it's the black and white repeated square off to infinity, a black square within a black square within a black square, going smaller and
Black
smaller.
and white, black and white,
Yeah.
black and white.
Good. All right.
Yeah.
Yep. That's interesting, isn't it? I see a black, you see a white.
Yeah.
And she is wearing a black and white dress, and she's got this black umbrella. And the way he's positioned the black umbrella, it sort of disappears into the black line of one of the black squares. And I just think, what a shame, because there's something beautiful potentially here. But there's also something about the light, and this happens a lot in his photos. I don't know how he lights stuff, but I feel like it's always slightly overexposed just behind him. Now, that may just be the backdrop.
Yeah.
But it's evident in quite a lot of his photos. I don't know how he lit stuff. And I have to constantly remind myself how early he was in the process, because I'm comparing him to people who had so much more advantage of technology. And
he was groundbreaking, and we should never forget that. And we are in the privileged position of being able to look at his work and improve on it.
Yeah. And we couldn't do that if he hadn't pushed the boundaries.
Exactly.
So I'm eating humble pie now.
Okay. But it's a great fun picture.
It's lovely.
It's colour, which is, something that he came along while he was a photographer, and he had to embrace it. And good on Cecil, he literally took on every challenge that was thrown at him.
Also, we should quickly say, I agree with that, and we should quickly say Audrey Hepburn is a game changer as well, because she comes along as this sort of petite, demure actress model. And amongst other extraordinary quotes, that somebody said, breasts are over, they're done, because this new svelte figure had come in and wasn't kind of the big, buxom, Marilyn Monroe-esque type of stuff. Yeah. So I think she's a game changer as well, and it's no accident, I suspect, that they met and created interesting stuff.
But since what's so funny, I find this funny. We're looking at a colour photograph, which is basically all in black and white. The dress is black and white, the background is black and white, and it's just Audrey's skin, and I love that when you can make a colour photograph monochrome.
And didn't you end the last episode with, and now we're going to talk about colour? You almost got to that point.
And what's so interesting is this photograph, which I've got on the screen now. The thing is, the reason why I love this photograph is it could be a model, it could be a fashion story, and I think it probably is. So that's why you didn't remember the name of the woman, just in case it was the princess of God knows where.
Lithuania.
Yeah. I think, so there's a young girl standing in a ball gown in a very grand room, and there are a lot of flowers, and there is a grand chair in the photograph. Now, what I love about it is that, again, it's almost a monochrome picture.
Yeah.
I think you called it my green and red photograph.
It's a green and red photograph.
And it is fantastic.
It is.
Because we could create that today with the use of Photoshop, AI, Lightroom, all these things, but he will have seen that for the reality of what it was. The floor, the wall, the background, it is all these lovely, soft, muted, dark,
and
umber
tonally,
colours.
he's totally got those reds and greens in the flowers, in the chair, in the dress. It's mind-blowing.
It is absolutely brilliant. And I love the way it's been, I think it's been lit by natural daylight, coming in, falling onto the chair, falling onto the model, falling onto half the gladioli.
Go with that.
And it's incredible, the colours. I mean, it's a beautiful colour portrait.
You've reminded me of something else that we haven't touched on with Cecil Beaton when you said we have the advantage of Photoshop. He is the retoucher extraordinaire of all time. He absolutely retouched his photographs by hand.
With a paintbrush.
Endlessly. And because he did want to make them perfect for his overall vision. Not because he was bringing out the character. He just thought, I don't want flaws in this. So that's an interesting point we've never... And it's going to come up in a photograph we're going to look at. I think. Okay. I'll show you.
Now, are we ever allowed to be rude about a photographer or a photographer's work?
This might be Prince Emmeline de Broglie. I think.
Okay. The thing is, there is a picture which I just don't understand it. And I'm just going to say one little sentence and I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay.
It looks a bit like an IKEA shower curtain advertisement.
Well, I began to wonder when I started looking through his work whether it almost is shower curtains, because he has this array and they just keep popping up in lots of backdrops, and he's just moving around these sort of 4 foot by 5 foot, maybe less widths of patterned backdrops.
Lit from behind.
Yeah. Maybe even with the window.
He was a pioneer.
Yeah.
And thank goodness he did. And funnily enough, if I'm being honest and genuine,
you can be with me, no one's listening.
This could be a sort of precursor to the coronation portrait of the Queen, where he had a backdrop painted and she's sitting more or less in the same position. It's just I just don't like this particular image.
But as you say, he's going places no one else has gone.
Ever
and
before,
for that we are eternally grateful, because that pushes the boundary of creativity. Let's move on to the next one. Now, I want to talk about this one. So we're going to come back to the war.
Well, we can do the war now. Do the war. It was in.
So who commissions him to? It's the Ministry of Defence or Ministry of Information who says we need you to go out and take photos as part of the war effort.
You're the knowledge guy.
And he starts by going all around the UK and photographing the armed forces people, and he eventually goes to Egypt and Middle East and everywhere. And he thinks it's his most important work. Now, what we're looking at right now, which the National Portrait Gallery have sent us, is, I think, one of my favourite photographs, weirdly, that he's taken. It's 2 airmen against, is it wallpaper?
Must be.
Or a picture anyway of aeroplanes, about 25 aeroplanes flying behind their heads.
It's like the Battle of Britain, but it's not actually happening.
Yeah, and they're sitting at a desk, and one of them is sitting like some movie star, kind of beautifully lit with his hair immaculately brill creamed, just looking directly at Beaton's camera. And I like that. This is the point I was about to make a second ago. This guy surely is retouching a photograph. Is this not a set of retouching inks?
It looks absolutely like it. I'd never noticed it before. That is brilliantly observed.
And so he's retouching the war effort in some way. Like, no, we didn't lose that plane. No, I don't know what he's doing. But it caught my eye this morning.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a wonderfully constructed picture of this guy not in the least bit interested in being photographed, and this guy saying, this is my moment. I mean,
this is the sort of wallpaper you would put on your son's bedroom, isn't it? The war years were... They're fascinating, his photographs, because he brings all his life as an artist and a photographer into these photographs. Sometimes you get this fashion feel to them. Sometimes you get pure photojournalism. Sometimes you just get a sense of a line or a shape, or just that wonderful thing of looking at the ordinary and making it extraordinary.
We should another one of his war pictures we should talk about, which you alerted me to, was the one in the exhibition of the person, the young child? This went all around the world.
No, there are. This is a photograph of a young girl, I think, probably wounded in the Blitz. And she's in a hospital bed with a bandage around her head and holding sort of the remains of a teddy bear or a doll, which almost look like they have been equally damaged and dressed with a bandage or two.
Yeah.
Now, what I love about it is, it's tragic, but it's beautiful at the same time.
Yeah.
But this is a photographer's thing. Look at this picture, which they put on Life magazine,
Yeah.
and compare it with the one on the London Illustrated News. It's practically the same shot, but it's 2 or 3 frames across.
And did he prefer this
He preferred the one on the Illustrated London News, where she's actually got one finger in her mouth.
Yeah.
And it is very, very touching. But what I love about it is, even great photographers can't sometimes decide which is a better picture.
But this the one in the Illustrated London News, I think is so much more vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I feel like Life didn't quite dare go there.
Yeah, maybe.
But the interesting thing, I think, about... He not only did he think it was his most important work, there is an argument that he helped to bring the Americans on board with his photography. Because
Yes.
he just started... And I know Lee Miller has also... People say that of Lee Miller. But it certainly was said of his work that he helped kind of point out how bad it was. And by the way, that woman clearly survives and goes on because she's referred to in various things, and she was known and they found her. So all went well.
But also, I'm just putting it. I think it's called War in the East: Chinese Commandos, and it's an incredible portrait of some soldiers, Chinese commandos.
Yeah.
He didn't just do a few air raid survivors in London. He really got out there. And then there was this one of the Battle of Britain and France, and it is a picture of Derek Adkins, and it is such a beautiful portrait. I don't quite know how much of it is studio, but the way he has positioned I'm going to say studio lights around this pilot makes it look like searchlights in the sky. Defending Britain
RAF,
from he was very, very creative and talented and brilliant.
And I think here's a hypothesis, here's an argument for you to knock down, but I think what's interesting is a man whose creativity knows no bounds, faced with the war effort, suddenly is restricted because he can only do what he's been sent to do. And in a way, those restrictions I think help him. Because he's forced to work within some restricted boundaries.
But these last few pictures we've looked at, I think are so important to include, which I'm really glad the National Portrait Gallery has done, because there were he was quite sort of fluffy and flowers and drama and actually the way they've put the exhibition together is really good. You definitely know where you've been to a Cecil Beaton experience,
and every room, every time you turn a corner, you're in a new world. Almost. Do you remember when you turn that corner and you see John Cocteau? And I'm like, oh, okay, that's where I am now. I'm kind of...
But, they've different coloured walls in each gallery, flowers, paper, cut-out flowers in one gallery. It's very clever. And yet all that fluffy stuff, he also took these incredible wall photographs. Over to you, Cambridge. I'm going to describe this picture. So now tell me something about this photograph that doesn't include the word red.
I don't know how to read it. I've read it. I think, oddly, one of the things I picked out in it is that in the original, or is that... It is, isn't it? This is the one the National Portrait Gallery have sent us. So that would be odd to our eye now, to include the reflection. So at the top of this picture, there is clearly a reflection of whatever light he's shining in her face. And if we did that now, we'd think, oh, no.
You just said he was a master of cropping out or retouching.
But so it's interesting. So in a sense, that's an interesting... Why has he left that in?
I was hoping you were going to tell me some other things which I only slightly know about it, but I think it was one of the first colour fashion portraits that he did for Vogue. And I think it is in the exhibition to illustrate how well he embraced colour.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it a bit risky? Risque?
It's actually, I think it's beautifully lit.
Yeah.
Interestingly, which is not always true for me. If I was being hypercritical of Cecil Beaton, I would say his lighting isn't always perfect for the subject. It might be perfect for him.
Yeah.
It's not bad, but this one I like.
Now listen, Hollywood. I feel we ought to go to Hollywood a little bit. Buster Keaton. Do you remember
What
the
a great
photograph
picture.
of Buster Keaton? I absolutely adore it. He's sitting. What is great about this picture is it's not. It's this wonderful thing of not having the subject in the centre of the picture.
Can I read you what he said about going to Hollywood?
Yes, please do.
Because
Please do.
it's absolutely genius. Because he knows that Hollywood is there, and he sort of knows he needs to get there because he's after all these subjects. He was dazzled by Hollywood. Nowhere else in the world are there gathered together so many conventionally beautiful people. This is his own writing, I think, from his diary. This is a town inhabited almost entirely by gods and goddesses of beauty. The girl shutting the window is Venus disguised as an exquisite Madonna. The newspaper boy is a young Apollo. Every cashier girl with golden sausage curls is even prettier than Mary Pickford. He kind of thought, I need to get there. And when he got there, he thought, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Which slightly reminds me of, you know, that TV show, The White Lotus?
Yes.
The director did this very weird thing where all the extras in The White Lotus were models, but he didn't tell the cast.
Right.
So the cast are all acting away in The White Lotus, and they're kind of thinking, these people are quite good looking. Well, this whole Italy venue's a bit of something in it. And what he wanted to do was to create this slightly unnerved environment. And I think, in a way, Cecil Beaton going to Hollywood was a bit like that. Like, what is going on here? These people. But
bizarrely, the picture I've chosen to talk about right now of Buster Keaton, I mean, he's not bad looking, but he had a distinctive look.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm talking about this picture is because Buster Keaton's head takes up maybe an eighth of the entire paper space,
Yes.
and it's the bottom left-hand corner. So that's not much. And the rest of the picture is ladders, wooden ladders that are an A-frame ladder, which is creating
Which
a
is
wonderful
what
design.
we talked about at the end of last episode.
Yeah, but what I love is this epitomizes the phrase Hollywood hero lighting. And when you're photographing Hollywood heroes in those days, you would put a spotlight behind them, which would come through, and it would literally give a hair light behind them and make them look like heroes. And that is a perfect example.
Do you know the only thing I don't like about this photo?
The Hollywood hero lighting.
No, because I don't like the fact that he's let the light itself, just that tiny bit.
Yeah.
So I love the hero lighting.
Yeah.
I just wished he'd somehow
Moved
the
Buster
light a bit back. Yeah,
a bit
just
to
so
the
that we
left.
didn't see the light. We
Yeah,
just saw the
yeah,
effect
yeah,
of the light.
yeah.
But again, I think that's his sort of, it's the same. He had the reflection of the light in the last one. He's kept the light in here.
Yeah.
He's not doing what we do. He's after some bigger effect, I think. So I think this is for an advertising campaign for the ball gown maker. What we're looking at here is a room of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 beautiful ladies in beautiful ball gowns in a glamorous setting, all in beautiful different muted colours. And I love several things about this. I love the fact they're all in dynamic motion. They're not particularly bothered. I'm sure it's set up, but it's kind of contrived to make you think they didn't know there was a photographer there. We're just getting ready for something. But I'm also, and maybe you can help me here, I'm interested in his lighting again, because this lighting is not coming from that light, I would say. So what?
Okay, it is a groundbreaking photograph. It is absolutely fantastic. It's actually probably what Mario Testino wanted to do, or does do, and very successfully. A bunch of beautiful people standing around who are apparently completely unaware of the camera. The lighting is so groundbreaking. It's a light on the floor, and it's bouncing up in all sorts of different directions. It's not It's not lit as if that's what the room looked like, which gives it a magical feel.
Yeah.
But he's also done this thing. You were counting the number of people. But what's so funny is this model is looking in the mirror. This model is looking in a mirror. So they come in twice.
Yeah.
But also, what's so clever about it, I mean, I think it's meant to be debutantes at a sort of ball before. Because, you know, cups of tea, stroking the diamonds, whatever. It's absolutely a fantastic photograph. And another thing I love about the way they've put it in the exhibition is they have reproduced it. I mean, the models are twice the size of life-size humans. So it's a huge representation. And it's really clever. You walk into the exhibition and you're immediately hit, first of all, by this photograph, which works so well with everyone wearing their puffers and their Macs and their woolly scarves or whatever. And then the next picture is framed between two pillars, and it's quite sort of RuPaul. There's a very glamorous woman coming through, pushing the curtains apart, and it's a great way of setting for this particular exhibition.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. So can we just get the chronology here? He presumably he got kicked out of Vogue in New York for this anti-Semitic thing, and he's now not. Then he goes back to the UK. Then the war happens. How does he get back into? What allows him back into society? Because it's the war stuff, isn't it, really? And the royal stuff.
I don't know, the great thing about this podcast, listeners and viewers, is that he's the information man and I'm the dissection of the picture man. I don't know.
Well, listeners, we'll be back with part 4, 5 and 6.
On pictures, what I want to show you or discuss, and I think it does come after the war years, is portraits that he took of Salvador Dali and his wife.
Yes.
And there are things like this which we haven't touched on yet, but it is incredible how he does allow. I mean, I love this picture of Salvador Dali.
No, I do too.
And there's 2 paintings in the picture,
and that's his wife, right?
Yeah, and that's his wife, and I think he used his contacts to always be the centre of attention. And there is another photograph which was taken at his house.
I love that.
And it's of Richard Avedon and Richard Avedon's wife and Cecil Beaton's pug, which she's almost wearing like a sort of accessory or a fur stole on her shoulder. But it's such a wonderful court moment. And Richard Avedon is pointing straight towards the lens. And you've got the garden in the background. So it's like a personal snapshot of one person photographing 2 of his friends, but it happens to be Cecil Beaton's picture of Richard Avedon and the supermodel who was his wife.
And that's one of my favourite photographs from the whole exhibition.
Yeah.
I think in a way it's a precursor to the sort of Bailey breaking through the fourth wall stuff. It's got and I think, which of course Avedon influences Bailey, so it makes sense. Avedon knows exactly what he's doing when he reaches out to the camera. So he does indeed get rejuvenated by the war, and his photographs are very well respected, and he's allowed back into fashion. But what really saves him is his turn back to theatre, and particularly My Fair Lady, on stage, and then the film. And he was a bit annoyed in the film when he was only given the costumes, or was he only given the set? He wasn't given both.
Okay.
And he was very upset. But it's actually that brings him back, and he gets the Oscars and stuff. And Gigi was the other film he was heavily involved in.
Right.
So it's he sort of deviates to another route back in. But he is allowed back into fashion, interestingly. Vogue haven't actually cast him out forever.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's just another example of this non-photographer's creative genius, is that he's suddenly defining a whole generation's view of style and fashion through what becomes probably to this day one of the most famous shows and films of all time.
Yeah. And he uses his experience of a photographer of society, his talent as a draftsman and a watercolourist, and his work in the fashion world with Vogue, and he combines all these elements of his life and career into this one film.
Yeah.
And it is staggering to watch and look at and admire.
And that's where Audrey Hepburn comes in.
And actually Rex Harrison and Audrey Hepburn are fantastic to the extent that you don't even realise you're actually watching a Cecil Beaton creation.
Yeah. Just quickly to sum up his later years, he's knighted in 1968 by Queen Elizabeth II, becoming Sir Cecil Beaton. He publishes his diaries in 72. In 74, he suffers a severe stroke. And when he's interviewed on Face to Face with John Freeman, he's sort of half suffering from the effect of the stroke. But there's some beautiful things, because these questions are so direct about his ambition. It's an amazing interview, because it's well worth watching, listeners, this interview, if you Google Face to Face with Cecil Beaton, because the interviewer is totally obsessed by how much money his family had and how much money he wanted, and was he middle class, and what's his aspiration, and he doesn't hold back. He continues working despite bad health. In 1977 he photographs the Queen's Silver Jubilee, and in 1980 he dies on January the 18th at home. I've got at Reddish House in Broadchalk, Wiltshire, at the age of 76. Here's a fact.
Yeah.
Do you know who his neighbour was in Broadchalk?
No.
Me.
Wow.
Yes, I forgot about this.
So I went to the same school as him, and you were his next door neighbour.
Yeah. And I'll come back to that. But the other thing, the reason I said about
when did he die? Which year?
1980.
Okay.
But we're talking. I was his neighbour in if you remember, I was adopted, and the first house I went to was in Broadchalk, to this family who brought me up and loved me and made me a decent human being. The neighbour was Cecil Beaton, and he was I called my dad about this. I said, I know Cecil Beaton lived in the village near us, can you tell me anything? And he went, no, not really. I mean, everyone was in and out, Picasso, this and that. And then he said, oh, hang on a minute. I tell you what I do remember. I remember that he had these amazing parties, and they were amazing themselves, but what was most amazing was that after the parties, he would have had imported from France the best wine on earth, and he'd always order too much, and the local village shop would always sell it afterwards. And so this little tiny village in Broadchalk was imbibing the best wine on earth after every one of his parties.
That's great. I love it. It's interesting because the house does play its role in the exhibition.
Yes.
And again, we were talking earlier on about the big wall displays of the imagery. There is one rather beautiful photograph of Cecil leaning against the door frame of the front door, lovely, with the steps coming
down. Which is a self-portrait,
and you it's almost like he is welcoming you into his life. Yeah. And so I think it's beautifully created. It is. And I came away vastly entertained, a little bit informed. I say that not disparaging. It's just that I've known about Cecil forever. But I came out learning a little bit more new, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I would recommend it.
Because I do want to come back to this idea of our careers mixed up in a blender. But is there anything about your career? You must have known you were on this parallel course from Harrow to the Queen and so on. Is there anything you've learnt or knew already about Beaton that we haven't reflected on, that we should?
I find it a bit of a challenge that I didn't necessarily want.
To live in his shadow.
Yes.
Well, you've done well. You've walked out of that shadow.
But he was very informative. And funny enough, my grandmother lived on the fringes of his sort of world, grew up, So to her, he was the ultimate photographer.
Right.
And artist.
Yes.
Then, as I said, having gone to the same school, funnily enough, he was the first famous photographer that I became aware of, and we had an exhibition at school of his work. But I think, luckily, Patrick Litchfield also went to Harrow, and we had a Patrick Litchfield exhibition quite close, or maybe even with Cecil Beaton. So I was able to see what a range of life you could have as a photographer, not just Cecil Beaton's. And I do obviously love and admire his work, and have taken from it and tried to put my own stamp on it. But he's never been my number one photographer,
because he's more than a photographer.
Yeah, but I can draw really well as well. Can I show you this picture here? This is a watercolor of mine, of a friend of mine at school called Neil Lumsden. And if you look at this, it's a pen and knitting. It's watercolor with pen.
Beautiful.
And it's quite like Cecil Beaton's drawings.
Yeah. Do you think that was conscious?
I just used to quite enjoy. I did an art A level, failed. So
You and Cecil Beaton have quite a lot in common when it comes to exams.
But if I wanted to be another photographer, I want to be Irving Penn.
Yes,
Sorry,
agreed,
end of
agreed,
story.
Agreed. So the thing that I think weirdly in his career that is, he says this himself. He has this exhibition very early on in the 20s in London. This is sort of similar to how my career kicked off. He puts all these famous faces in this gallery, and he says it is perfect. It is ready-made for a world where everything is communicated through the printed press, through the newspapers, effectively. So they were absolutely lapped it up, and they could print all these famous pictures that he produced in his exhibition. And my career kicked off with 100 and something pictures in a gallery, the Proud Gallery. And I ended up with 8 pictures in the Observer, and I was on the Breakfast TV. And in a way, that sort of weird. There's just moments of luck, aren't there, where you're.
So how do we get? So there's a really nice Beaton to Burnand royal portraiture. How do we get Cambridge Jones and Beaton into one sentence?
We don't. We just sort of.
We just have to put it in the blender and press mix,
and it'll be very messy. I've really enjoyed talking to you about him. And my respect has gone up. It wasn't low to start with, but I've really learnt and enjoyed talking about this. So thank you for that. Should we take a listener's question?
We should.
Or have a top tip, whichever.
We should have both.
This week's listener's question comes from Bill. And Bill says, should I be taking lots and lots of pictures on my smartphone, or should I be working out what I want to take before I press the shutter?
My answer is a combination of both. Really good to train your eye before you press the shutter, but for goodness sake, don't miss the moment by spending too long composing and then miss the actual shot.
And I'm going to give a slightly controversial answer, which is, if you're going to shoot lots and lots and lots, please edit. Don't just shoot lots and lots and lots and just leave them all there. So by all means do it, but complete the process.
And delete.
And look at them afterwards and say, that one's good, that one isn't. And learn from it. But don't just take lots of pictures and leave them, which people seem to be doing.
Right, top tip.
Top tip.
Yeah,
for this week. A final Cecil Beaton top tip.
Yeah.
I think mine would be, it would actually come from his very, very early years. Some of the stuff we slightly laughed about, but being prepared. There's a picture he uses with his sporrans on a wall. I don't know where he got them, Scottish sporran, just literally on the wall behind. My point is, just use whatever's around you in ways it wasn't necessarily expected to be to create stuff. And it might work and it might not. But don't think you have to follow what's in front of you. You can play with reality, I suppose.
And I suppose my top tip would be something along the lines of don't be too one-track minded on photography and allow other influences in your life to affect your photography. He definitely was a great draftsman and a watercolorist. So this came into his photography. Now, you might be a food lover or you might be a landscape lover. Allow the outside influences to steer your photography.
I have loved learning about Beaton, but do you know what the most extraordinary fact I've learnt this week is? That you can draw. Thank you so much for listening to this. We've really enjoyed this. I hope you've enjoyed listening. Do follow us on Hugo and Jones or on YouTube. Like us, follow us, send us questions if you like. Anything else we would like to leave our listeners with?
No, but can't wait for them to tune in next week.
Thank you for listening.